Hello and welcome to Theology Still Matters. My name is William Hemsworth. It is great to be back with you all on this week's episode. Just a couple of housekeeping items. If you hear thunder and lightning, there is a huge monsoon storm going on outside my window, so my apologies in advance if you hear anything like that. This week's episode is very personal, and it's going to be a question I ask of myself and of you. And that question is, are you committing idolatry? Now, I know what you're probably thinking. You're like, oh, no way. There's no way I am possibly doing that. But I want to look at a couple ways that it can kind of sneak into our lives without us even knowing it. So if you've been a Christian for any length of time, you have read or you have at least heard of the Exodus story. It's a story that is taught to children and adults, but I think we hear it so much that it may lose its meaning a little bit. In our culture today, I think the story of the golden calf really has lost some meaning. So I want to read Exodus chapter 32, 1 through 4, which states, "When the people saw that Moses delayed to come down from the mountain, the people gathered themselves together to Aaron and said to him, 'Up, make us gods who shall go before us. As for this Moses, the man who brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we do not know what has become of him.' So Aaron said to them, 'Take off the rings of gold that are in the ears of your wives, your sons, and your daughters, and bring them to me.' So all the people took off the rings of gold that were in their ears and brought them to Aaron. And he received the gold from their hand and fashioned it with a graving tool and made a golden calf. And they said, 'These are your gods, O Israel, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt.'" So the Lord had delivered Israel from slavery, but soon the people became indignant. At this point, Moses had been on Mount Sinai for quite a while. So I just want to pause and ask a question. How do you think of leadership in your church? How do you think of your pastor? If he were to leave for whatever reason, would you also leave? If so, you may be possibly committing idolatry, meaning you were there for the person and not for the actual church itself. Now, granted, there are circumstances when leaving may be warranted. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google+, or LinkedIn. Social media, this mode of communication, it's consumed our lives. Now, to be fair, there are many great things about social media. With a click of a button, we can stay in touch with friends from high school, we can make connections around the world, or share the message of the gospel. So how can such a good thing become an idol? Well, it happens in the same way that anything can become an idol, by substituting something in the place of God. It often happens and we don't know it. How many times do we say that we don't have time to read scripture or to pray, but we can spend hours on social media? I hope you see the connection. Social media is great, but it must not take the place of our quiet time with the Lord. It also must not take the place of interacting with our spouses, which unfortunately is happening all too often, and some divorces may even be caused by that. Now, when you saw the story of the golden calf, when we read it, you may have thought, I don't worship a golden calf, so there's no way I'm committing idolatry. Or I don't elevate my pastor to a position he shouldn't be. Or I don't let social media take over my life. That's great. Keep that up. For many of us, our golden calf is money, sex, and loads of cash. The point is, there are no shortage of things that have the potential to become idols for us. The good news is we have forgiveness through faith in Jesus Christ. So as we go on with our daily lives, we should take some time to reflect. What things have we allowed to become idols in our lives? Now, this is most likely not intentional, but we are still going to be held accountable for it. So let's keep our priorities in check and make sure God is the head of our lives. God bless you all. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Theology Still Matters. My name is William Hemsworth. God bless you.